Good morning, everybody. This is John and Henry again, coming to you with our first official episode. To all of you that listened to our first pilot episode, we want to say thank you very much. Hopefully, it was somewhat entertaining, and you got something out of it. And we're gonna keep this ball rolling. Before we get started, I was speaking to Henry before the show started, and we decided on, before every episode, to do a guided meditation for a minute. And then we'll close at the end of the episode with a meditation also, but it won't be guided by me. And the point of that is, instead of just getting into conversation right away, kind of give everybody a chance to take a breath, gain some space, because this is the biggest topic and the biggest thing we want to speak about is that space between the thought and ourselves, right? So that's a great portal to kind of get into that space. So I'll start us off. You can just listen to me for the first minute. I'll give you some cues, and we will go from there. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So everybody, just sit down however you are in a relaxed position. There's really no technical position to do this. I mean, it's really however you're comfortable, and just start with some easy breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. Just feel your lungs filling up with air. Feel them exhale. Now on the inhale and the exhale, this is where we want your attention to be. So in slow inhale, hold it for a second, and then let it out. Just keep that pattern going. In through the nose. Hold it for a second. And then out through the mouth. The goal here is to always keep your focus not on what's going on between your ears, but what's going on outside. So that could be your breath. If you'd like, you could focus on extremities, your fingers, your feet. Pick a body part if that's what works for you. That silence is very important. And if a thought comes in, which it will with everybody, allow it to just pass. See it, allow it to go. We're not here to engage anything that's happening between our ears right now. A few more nice deep breaths. Notice that stillness behind that breath. That is what we're talking about. That's the point of this show. Nice exhale out on that last one. Okay. So I hope that kind of slowed that mind stream down a little bit. That's really the whole point of it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, man.
Thank you, because I'll be honest, that was one of the questions I needed to ask you. Is how, I'm sure everybody's asking, how does one meditate, right? So what meditation, what is it? How do you do it? And there's so many forms and so many stereotypical things that you would see and hear, about the guy cross-legged with one hand on each knee and, pointer finger and thumb, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know how to meditate. And then I, read some stuff and, you also pick up some stuff along the way, and everybody's like, no, there is no really set way of how to meditate. It's just a matter of finding quiet and just something that just... You're basically breathing and quiet. It's, a mixture of...
Yeah, so there's a lot of misconceptions about meditation. And one of the biggest ones is, how do you do it? And there really is no one way to meditate. I'm a big proponent of walking meditations. I walk, and as I do my walks outside in the morning, I kind of focus on my feet on the pavement, the sound of the birds. I'll pick out a part of nature, whether it's a tree or something, and just focus on it, not labeling it. Now, you could do that. You could do a sitting meditation. There's really no one way to do it. It's how are you comfortable? I think when you try to force it, like I have to sit on a pillow with my legs crossed, I can't sit on a pillow with my legs crossed. Right. I'm not flexible. I look kind of stupid, and I fall over every 3 seconds. So I'm really not getting anything out of it.
It's not working for you.
No, it's not working for me. So, I mean, there's really no one way. Yes, prototypical. You see the spiritual teacher with the beads on, with his hands
Right.
crossed on that pillow, and that's great. If you're comfortable doing that way, beautiful.
Yeah.
You'll get centered, awesome. But if you can't, if that's not for you, sitting in a chair, walking outside,
Yeah.
standing, you could do it any one of 10,000 ways.
So you know what I just heard?
What?
I'm gonna tell you what I heard.
Mm.
You're pairing some other activity with meditation. So it means you can actually do two things at
once.
the same time.
Well, that's what mindfulness is, right? So if you're, and I've actually put videos on Instagram about this on my Instagram account. If you're washing your dishes, right? Sometimes it's a task that you don't want to do. You could be miserable about it because I really want to be doing this. This absolutely sucks. This is boring, blah, blah, blah. And this could be a horrible experience because you're doing something which technically, it's not enjoyable, right? Who loves washing dishes?
Well,
I guess it's somebody, but
yeah,
whatever.
a little bit.
Okay, I'm going to use me as an example. I don't enjoy washing dishes. So for me, oh my God, that'll be a very, boring thing to do. But you bring mindfulness into it. And so now focus on what you're doing. Focus on the warmth of the water. Focus on the suds. Focus on the plate. Focus on your actions, not labeling them. You're not trying to describe it in your head. You're actually just focusing on what is happening. The purpose of meditation is to bring your focus to one thing at that moment. And that's when you're absolutely present. Thought starts to kind of melt away when you do that. So even if you're doing something you're not, too thrilled about, well, now it doesn't become enjoyable. You're not going to enjoy washing dishes if you don't. But all of a sudden, it's not painful. It's not annoying. It's not this task that, oh my Lord, when is it going to end?
Yeah.
It's you're actually practicing meditation while you're doing something. So yes, that's a great segue into that.
Yeah.
You can meditate while doing things
Yeah.
at the same time.
I think life trains you to just do that thing. Just do that because you
Yeah.
got to do that thing. And so because life trains you like that, that's kind of your thought pattern as you go on about your day, right? Most of the people sit in traffic and seethe and just get upset about anybody who's cutting them off, and you're hung up on that moment in the traffic, and I can't believe this, they closed the freaking bridge. And instead, you could be pairing that mundane activity with meditation.
Yeah. Why do you? So misery is a choice. A lot of people don't want. A lot of people will fight me on that when I say that. Misery and suffering is a choice.
Yeah.
John, how can you say suffering is a choice? I'm going through this horrible experience. Yes, you are. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Whatever the experience you're going through is, it can be horrible. It can be unfortunate. But do you have to suffer? And I'm not talking about suffering in the physical sense if you're dealing with a physical pain. Sure, that pain might be there. Or, the loss of a loved one. Sure, that pain might be there.
Yeah.
But only you could choose to suffer.
Yeah.
Suffering is not something that happens because of the event. It's something that happens because we're choosing to create a story around that event.
Yep.
Where, like you were saying, oh wow, now this is the worst. Oh wow, this is horrible. Oh wow, this should not be happening. So I mean, it's an ultimate choice to be miserable during while you're doing something, or like we were speaking about, just bring your attention to what's happening in that moment. And that's a great practice for the bigger events in life where, where if something's going on, whether it's physical or relationship wise, you can't, a 1 minute meditation isn't, something that's going to make it go away. But those 1 minute or 5 minute meditations you do every day build up a practice in you so that when those events do come, because unfortunately for everybody in life, we're all going to deal with situations that we're not, we're not going to want to be in, but it's just the way life
Yeah.
is. You'll be prepared to have that space between what is actually happening and the story your mind's going to create to make that event that much worse.
Yep. And you basically brushed by something that we were talking about before we started, which was fixing something as opposed to addressing something.
Mhm.
Giving you a tool to how to address situations and how to address things, and basically how to address this crazy life in 2022, where if you don't check yourself and check what's going on, you're going to get wrapped up in the wave, you're going to get wrapped up in the situation and wrapped up into your old patterns, which drive you to, again, all the different voices in your mind pulling you here and pulling you there, as opposed to having that separation, having that space for you to be able to just make a proper analysis or a proper, let's say, behavior to a situation. As you said, if you're suffering, you kind of chose to suffer because you're
Yeah,
just
agreed.
reacting. You're just a hyper reactor as opposed to taking a minute and kind of what you're teaching here right as we started. You're kind of teaching the ABCs of meditation, and it's really the intro to meditation. And I think it's very important because a lot of people, think about the average person. I don't think the average person meditates. I don't think the average person
No,
even knows
I
how
doubt
to
it.
meditate. And I don't think you even know, you have to know how to meditate. You just have to know, I think, a simple thing.
How to be there.
Quietness,
Mm.
chill, be there. And then, for all of us normal folk, pair it with an activity. Everybody commutes, a lot of people commute to work.
Yeah.
Pair it with that. I'm gonna go down to the sewer with this. You go to the bathroom. What do you do in the bathroom?
I'm gonna go.
Think about it, right?
Yeah, listen. Look, I guess in the purest of forms, you can
Yes.
meditate there also.
John, there's no rules. You know?
No, there isn't. But that's the beauty of it. People unfortunately get so taken back by the word meditation that their mind creates this. Well, this is going to be difficult, so why bother trying? Well, I'll give everybody a little glimpse into the future. You don't ever become an expert at meditating because it's not a thing that we're trying to do to master. Meditation is a practice. The same way as if you want to learn how to throw a baseball, you go and you practice. You keep practicing. So in baseball, you will get better at it. You will get better at meditation, but you won't become the goal isn't to become a master of meditation. The goal is to keep practicing. Meditation is a constant practice. The more you practice, the more during the day, when events come up, you're going to be able to disidentify from your thought patterns more quickly. You get there quicker because now you've built up this kind of like I was saying, practice to not become an expert, but to almost get used to it. So now I've done this so many times, I kind of understand where that separation comes from. So meditation is an ultimate, ever-going, practice. There's no at the end. Okay, well that's it. I get my certificate. I am now a master of meditation. That's not how it
Like
works.
brushing your teeth.
Yeah, it's something you
brushing
do
your
every day. That's a great example. Why do you brush your teeth? Because you want your teeth to be clean. You want to be hygienic, right?
Right.
Why do you meditate? You want to find that awareness, find that space, and be able to call that as needed during the day. And you don't need to do it for a half hour either. People are under this impression that you must meditate for 30 minutes a day.
Right.
Spoiler alert, you don't have to do anything in life for any prescribed amount of time. You can meditate for a minute. You can meditate for 2 minutes, right? 30 seconds. If it's difficult in the beginning, short intervals. Do it 30 seconds or a minute here. Bring it into your daily routine, like something you're doing. Do 30 seconds or a minute somewhere else. You'll see over time that you build up, this comfortable, feeling with it. You build up, you acclimate to it, and
Yeah.
it becomes a little bit easier for you to start doing it because your mind's always going to tell you, nah, Henry, you don't have time. You got to go to the gym.
Yeah.
No, Henry, you got something to do for work. No, Henry, you got to go see your wife. No, Henry, your kids need this. You have to go eat breakfast. So there'll always be a reason why your mind's going to tell you not to do it. But if you could find that 1 or 2 minutes a day, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think now anybody listening can understand me why I look forward to this every week. I totally look forward to this. I'm like, I want you to put yourself in the shoes of a ladyfinger right before it becomes a tiramisu.
I love
Do
tiramisu.
you understand?
By the way, if you're not Italian, you need to go to Italian bakery and it's got to be good tiramisu because if it's not, it can be pretty nasty. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
Oh
off,
my
but
God.
it's that
But
good.
I feel like that. I feel like I'm about to jump in my espresso bath, and I'm gonna be there for a few hours. And I'm gonna soak it all in right before I become a beautiful tiramisu, and that's what I feel like, man. And here I am. I'm soaking it all in. Thank you for leading us off with that, and by the way, as long as I'm thanking, because I'm very thankful today.
Yeah,
Thanks for everybody for reaching out with the positive messages.
absolutely. Yep.
And it means a lot. I think I don't. Let me get my words here. We're connecting on a really deep level, and I couldn't be happier. And like, you really touched me. All friends, all family, anybody that said something nice and found it useful. Thank you, and you know,
Yeah.
I feel a special connection with you because you know, I think John and I bear our souls here. And it really, you know, it's nice. It's touching.
Yeah,
So
no,
thank you.
absolutely. We appreciate, you know, everybody who followed the the Facebook page that we created for the show and all the positive comments. And look, and the first time you listen, a lot of the stuff we say might feel foreign, might feel a little, I hate to use this word, but like you said it last week in our last episode, mumbo jumbo, right? But it's
Yeah.
it's kind of true. But if you stick with it, I could almost guarantee you there's going to be the goal is for us to go deeper. And I'm not talking deeper, let's talk about your past or your childhood. I'm talking deeper within to that place where no matter what's going on the outside, you're always, I use this example a lot. You ever see a duck on a pond?
Oh yeah.
A duck on a pond, when it's floating on top, looks so serene and calm.
Yeah.
Underneath the water, those little feet are paddling a mile a minute,
There you
right?
go, man.
So our feet it's kind of reversed in this example, but our feet are at a world where it's going a mile a minute. But on top, everything is calm and serene, right? So, you know, that's what we're trying to show you, that you could be that calm, still person, even no matter what's going on, you know, on the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's-
thanks everybody.
It's yeah. Thank you guys. Like I said, I feel a very special connection, and I can't thank you enough. And that's why we do this, really, because we want to connect and we want to see people's lives improve in this capacity. And while we do this, I'm right along with you. You know, today I also learned how to meditate from John.
Yeah,
So,
well,
thank you.
it's-
But
yeah.
you mentioned something very important, the ability to get deep. And that was during our dinner the other day. We spoke about something, and we closed our show number 1, or our pilot episode, with that little cliffhanger of, you know, dying and living as if you're dying, or
Or
living
to learn to die
learn to
before you
die.
die. Yeah.
So let me give everybody a setup here. So I'm pretty good at setting up a story. So we were talking about how most people have a really hard time getting deep. So you and I really connected when we got deep. It was our ability to say, "Wow, man, you have more trouble other than scheduling your stuff for work. You have more deeper feelings." So, and as you shared yours, I shared mine, and we're like, "Oh man, it's a special connection." But I don't know if, let's say, anybody can feel comfortable going deep, or anybody can do it. And then I said to you, you know, John, you know when people get deep, you know when people take off, let's say, the filters and take off the mask, and they let go, is when you're on your deathbed. Think about it. So I'm a guy who, I have these little mini panic moments when I start to think about my death, right? Because when I think about my death, I think about leaving behind my kids, my wife, you know, that freaks me out.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're on your deathbed, that's the moment, because you know you're going to die soon, right? The doctor said, hey, look, you have, you know,
Whatever.
possibly within today you're going to go. And it's only at that moment that we say, holy shit, it's here. Then you turn to your wife and you say, you know how much I love you? I loved you my entire life. And then you turn to your kids and you say all these things. Why? The question I ask, why are we waiting for that moment? Why are we waiting for that moment to be deep? And then you said,
Well, yeah. So there's definitely there's two. So there's two, I guess, answers. Well, answers. There's two ways to look at the what I said next, which is learn to die before you die. So yes, that is. So the way you're speaking about it right now is to learn to die before you die. Meaning, why wait until the last moment to tell somebody you love them, to live the life you've always wanted to live, right? Because your life happens now. It's not going to happen in 50 or 60 years. It happens now. So why wait until, you know, that moment for you to forgive somebody you've been wanting to forgive for 30 or 40 years? Why wait until you're being told something that's A, inevitable, B, we all know, we know it's going to happen. Why wait until then to do the things that you value? If you value somebody in your life, tell them that you love them. Forget about everything else. That's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it, and this is a really deeper way, is when I say learn to die before you die, is learn to burn your ego off. So when you burn your ego off, so the ego is the part of our essence or our mind or our thought patterns that can be superior or can be inferior. And it will keep you either in the I am the man and let me just walk on everybody and I don't care. It's all about me, I'm right, you're wrong. And it's also the inferior ego that says you're not worth crap. You're not good at this, you're to this, you're to that, you're to the other thing.
You broke a stereotype right now. I don't think everybody feels that way. In other words, everybody thinks when you say ego, you're thinking about egotistical. That guy who's, I'm better than
That's
everybody.
one side of it, yeah.
But then you just mentioned there's the other side, which
Yeah,
is
the
I'm
ego will
pulling
pick-
you down.
The ego will use anything it can to A, make you inflate you, or B, deflate you. It will do anything it can to do either or. And it doesn't care. Because the ego doesn't have a purpose as to say, I need to do what's better for John. The ego is just, it's going to act the way it needs to act. Because without, the ego is what we identify with. So that's where a lot of people's identities come from. I'm a Republican. I'm not a political person. Time out before we go any further. I really don't speak on politics, but I'm going to use this as an example because there might be people in our audience who could relate to this. I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat. So I'm going to identify with this. I'm going to identify with that. I'm a Catholic. I'm Jewish. I'm Italian. It could be I'm Irish. It could be, label yourself whatever you want. The ego is going to pick something to say, this is what I am. This is what I must be. I must now act like this, think like this, and no matter what, I have to, this is who I am. On the flip side, it could say, okay, well, no, you're not as good as that person. You're not as good as that thing. And it will keep you in this hamster wheel, kind of beating you both ways. So when I say learn to die before you die, I'm saying learn to allow the ego to burn off and not have to identify with either or. You don't have to identify with being better or being worse. Do you kind of
Yeah,
get what
so
this isn't something that you could explain in a sentence. This is something like you have to kind of stretch it out and break it down into a lot of different things.
Okay, so basically, your ego is not you,
No.
and your ego overrides you.
Correct.
And at that moment,
Takes control.
your ego
and
isn't driving the car.
and you don't realize it. So the person who's watching, you become the backseat driver now in your vehicle when the ego takes over. Right? Sometimes analogies are the best way to explain things like this if somebody can't get it right away, because it does take a little bit to kind of try to grasp sometimes. What do you mean by like the ego is in control and I'm not, but I'm making the choices? But are you making the choices, or is your ego making them for you? So you have whatever situation that happens in life, a family member says something to you that triggers you. And now you must give a response. I must tell this family member, I'm right, you're wrong. Who's making that choice? Is that choice being really made by the person, the actual essence, that awareness, that consciousness behind it, or is it being made by the ego who says, I need to be right here?
The person that you learned to separate from your thoughts, is that the person answering, or is it your thoughts and your ego?
And you're just
And everything.
and you're just blindly following it. So that's where, like we say, choice comes in. Next time use this with a family member later on today. You're talking to somebody and they say something. Oh, look, honey, look at this Facebook post where this person wrote this. How can they write this? Before you answer from this kind of predetermined, pre-described, you've been told you have to be like this in your life. You've learned socially this is what you are. Instead of giving that answer, take a few breaths. Wait a second. Give it a beat. See what comes up behind it. You might notice that initial urge to want to answer a certain way.
Yes.
Oh, okay, hold on a second.
Yes.
I'm watching it and it's floating away. Why? Because what you actually are behind it, maybe things you actually value, right? Value isn't, when I value something, I don't value being a Republican or a Democrat or being Roman Catholic over Hebrew. I value living a certain way. So I value being a kind, moral, try to be a moral person, helpful. I value, I value kindness. I value empathy. So if these are things you value, your answers you're going to notice start not aligning with that, because the ego is not going to align a lot of times with things you value, or it's going to pick something you value and try to inflate it on you. So it's taking a breath, letting that kind of pass by, and see what comes up behind it. See what the actual answer you want to give might be. It might not be the answer that's going to make you feel good at that moment, but it's the answer you actually want to give, where you want to kind of tell that person, you actually might want to say, I hear you. Okay, let's talk about it. Instead of saying, no, you're wrong right away. Screw you, I'm right. Because we've been trained.
Our programming is strong.
Yes, it's very strong. And the stronger the ego is, and that's a great analogy, the stronger that programming is, which is going to kind of make you do that right away, make you act like that right away.
Our programming is so strong that I'm hearing you say this, and the only thing I can think of is how our relationships as humans, as Americans, are precisely based on this ego conversation. Because when you get together with friends, you're gossiping.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
wait till the book comes out. There's
You're-
a lot about stuff like that.
You're gossiping, you're complaining. And think about, okay, just gossip and complaining.
You've aligned with that identity. You have to, right?
Think about it.
Yeah.
Gossip and complaining is 70% of our conversations.
Is anything ever accomplished in that? No.
No, right? And the more we gossip and complain, the more we train ourselves to stay in the soup that has us feeling down, confused, feeling nuts, and we keep just auto-programming, and we keep going about our lives and not, let's say, doing anything about it. And I'm going to inject the word willingness. So when you realize it and you're willing to do something about it, well, that's why we're here. All right, that's why we're here. That's why we're basically going through this together. Okay, so the ego can be can be a thing that lifts you up falsely, and it could be a thing that puts you down falsely.
And the key word there is falsely. Yes.
Falsely, right?
Yeah, it's a veil. It's a veil that's being put in front of your eyes that you can't see through, thinking, and you're using terms that maybe people relate to a little bit easier than what I've kind of said.
Preach.
Yeah,
Let's go.
yeah.
Preach, baby, teach.
No, because it's actually a lot of times when you speak about the ego, people get false identity. They misinterpret actually what it is, right? They think that it's, like you said before, it's just this egotistical person. Or people say, well, you need a little bit of ego to be. You don't need the ego to accomplish anything in life. You want to accomplish something, you can accomplish it without ego. Actually accomplishing it with a clearer mind. Because one thing the ego, whether it's falsely uplifting you or falsely pushing you down, one thing it's not going to do is give you clarity. There's no clarity when the ego is involved. Zero clarity, because the ego doesn't allow you to think clearly. It wants you to think with emotion, with feelings, with old thought patterns. That's what it aligns with. So when the ego is going to tell you you have to be right, it's not allowing you to think clearly, because the higher intelligence that's there, that streams through all of us, that connects basically every living being on this planet, whether human or animal or whatever, the ego will drop a veil in front of it so you can't see past it. And if you allow it to do that, you're going to, like I said 2 seconds ago, you're going to be reacting, not responding.
I got questions. I got
Okay.
so many questions for you.
Yes. The questions
All right.
make it easier for me to explain
So
this sometimes.
one of the things I'm processing as you're talking. I'm processing and I'm putting things together in my mind. I'm saying, all right, and think about this. So again, not that I'm some sort of marriage counselor or marriage expert.
By the way, we are not licensed or...
Not that I'm a marriage counselor or expert, but I do think I have a beautiful marriage. I mean, it's really it's a successful marriage.
Eric is great.
And let me just say this. So I think that if you're in a marriage or in a relationship and you employ this tactic or this tool of watching out for your ego by creating that separation, this takes time and this takes practice. And like John said in the beginning, it's not a fix, it's a practice. And you do it every day. You're going to brush your teeth every day. So you're going to think about this every day. But if you employ this, think about how this act affects your relationship with your loved one, right? You kind of break the cycle, at least with your partner in life, of the toxicity where, we're not going to gossip about another, one couple gossips about another couple. That's like every day in America. Like, okay, no. You don't have to. You don't have to do that.
Do you notice when you just said that when couples gossip about other couples, next time that's happening, because it's going to happen in everybody's lives, even in mine, unfortunately, a conversation will come up. My radar automatically goes off and I start to feel this urge coming up where I want to say something. And then this is where that awareness, that's why, like we said, meditation is so important and things like that, is when you could separate, now you could see the ego wanting to say, hey, yeah, do you believe what they did? Or do you believe, the nerve, or, that I wouldn't do that. I notice that coming up, and I allow it, I actually watch the thought start from somewhere in my mind, flow through, and fly away. And I don't engage it. And every time you don't engage that thought, you learn to die before you die a little bit more. So every time you don't engage that automatic reaction, you learn to die a little bit more before you die. Because once you burn the ego completely off to the point where, even though it never disappears, and in some people it has, and that's phenomenal. I know in me it still pops up here and there. Once you start to really burn it off, you start to see who you truly are behind it. All of a sudden there's a clarity in how you want to speak. There's a clarity in how you respond to people. You start noticing that the people around you start responding differently because now their ego is not feeding off of anything. So, hey, I'm not going to give you anything. You want to say something that's going to be inflammatory? Go ahead. I can sit here in silence and just say, I understand, and not give you anything. And now I allow my ego to completely burn off, and yours starts to quietly calm down. But going back to what we said in the beginning of the show, to learn to die before you die, it's once ego and identification with this thing in our minds that brings all this toxicity up starts to pass and disappear, all you're left with is the stillness, a calmness, a peace, no matter what's happening in life. You can still feel on the surface the emotions might be there, but you're behind it, watching it in this sea of calm tranquility. Like you're tapped into it constantly. So that's why I say when even death itself is not scary anymore, because the ego fears death. The ego can't survive without something to feed off of. So the ego, like when you try to say, I can't comprehend dying, I'm worried about my family, I'm worried about my wife, I'm worried about my kids, that's all ego still. Mm-hmm. Like you're perceiving it as love, and that's great because sure, you care about your family, you want to make sure they're okay. Absolutely. But that's still your ego saying, see, Henry, we can't think about what it's like when we're not without life. I can't understand this. I can't comprehend this. I can't justify this. That's all ego. When behind it, you'll understand that same consciousness and energy that you are, your wife is, and your children are. So when our bodies are no longer here, we're still part of something way bigger, right? You're Catholic, you want to call it a soul? That's great. Call it a soul. I call it energy. That's kind of how I look at it. But the goal is to understand and not identify, but realize that you're that energy, that soul, that peace behind every thought. And that's how you learn to die before you die. When now, all of a sudden, even death itself, while, of course, everybody wants to be alive because you get to experience wonderful things, but even death itself isn't this scary thing because you're not seeing it through the eyes of the ego anymore. You're seeing it through something greater than that, right? So.
And when we had this discussion, because we're running long, John, believe it or not, look where we're at.
34 minutes. So listen, sometimes we'll go 5 minutes longer, 10 minutes longer, not to just cut it right at the end of the conversation.
But I do want to say this. This will be a wrap-up.
Mhm.
I'm getting good at this wrap-up stuff.
I start, you end.
I want you to share with everybody what you told me at that moment, because that was profound. It was so simple, but it was profound. AF. I'm going to tell you right now. I'm going to remind you. And you're going to be like, what? You're looking at me like, what did I say? I'm going to tell you exactly what you said.
I tend to curse a lot.
Oh,
That's
no,
why.
no, no, no. Okay, so we're having that discussion, and I told you about that fear about dying, and you told me that, just live as if you're going to die.
Yes.
Get ready for your death. And I was sitting there, and I was processing it, and then you said, well, let me ask you something. What do you remember before you were born? What were you before this?
Oh, wow, yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, you're right.
Before you had memory and thought, where were you? You were. It's not easy to comprehend maybe off the bat, but
That was good.
But that's actually what it is. Before you had your first memory, we identify with our memories. Like we think we are what we are because these memories that we have that is stored, as Eckhart Tolle once said, he goes, they're stored up in the cloud. Like with our photos and everything else, it goes like photos show up on our phone. Where do they come from? Like they're being beamed down from some satellite that's in some server. Where do your thoughts come from? Your thoughts are memories, but where are they? Still to this day, scientists can't tell you where memories are stored in our brain.
That's right. There's deep discussion.
There's these are where
Yeah.
we don't know where memories are stored. So how do I download these memories into my brain all of a sudden? And
Yeah.
that's our identification. So without those memories, take somebody who's unfortunately suffering from Alzheimer's.
Well, we're back. We had a little technical issue. Well, we fired the producer, so that's never going to happen.
Yeah. I need a new engineer. Obviously, the one we have is not that good. That would be me.
We fired the producer. He's gone. And so we just hired a new one. So we're back.
Nobody told us we need to have fresh batteries on our person while we're doing this for equipment in case it decides to die out.
Minor detail.
Minor details. So anyway, we were talking about, and I'll splice this back in. We were talking about, do you have any memories before you were
Right.
born? And I had brought up the example of amnesia, how the person gets a reboot. So, yeah, you don't. Right? What we were before we have any memory is what we'll be once we're gone. And
We think.
we with the thinking mind, that is very difficult to understand. The mind can't comprehend that because the mind needs to constantly be thinking of, well, what's next?
Yeah.
It's like the vastness of space. You tell the human mind, can you fathom what it means to that space is endless, that there is no end. Our minds equate things with a beginning and an end.
Yeah.
So something that has no beginning and has no end is hard. Like infinity is very hard. Yeah, the theory of it kind of makes sense, but it's very hard for the mind to really digest it. So like when you say, well, you're going to become what you were before you were born, there's something inside of me, like a stillness or an awareness or this piece that understands that.
Mm-hmm.
But when my mind tries to rationalize it, it can't. That's where, and for all my Christian, Roman Catholic friends, God love you, but that's where like that whole heaven comes from, right? Where do we go when we die? We go to heaven. Because the mind needs to say, we need to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
We need to continue, where the mind doesn't continue after that. So
I think if people are listening long enough, we're going to get there. We're going to talk about that in depth. We're going to talk about religion.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna get there.
We will. We'll get there, and it'll be done tastefully.
gonna get there.
I have nothing against
Oh my
people's
God,
religions.
no.
Beliefs,
Matter of fact,
belief systems are great.
Matter of fact, it's all questions. It's
Yeah.
all walking through, thinking through, and at the end of the day, I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer. I think that they're just answers.
Yes, and we'll definitely that'll be a topic
I
that
love
we'll
it.
get into someday.
But you said it. There's beginnings and there's endings, and we might have come to the end of this one. And
yes,
I feel great.
yeah.
This is like refreshing. I'm sorry, man, but this is like jumping in a sauna after a hot workout, and you feel so great. This is that. I'm telling you, I'm soaked in espresso right now.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, no, it was.
And now you understand why we had to do this, because we would discuss this in your kitchen, at a restaurant, in the car, chilling, at a baseball, whatever. And this would be our discussions, and we're putting it now, on recording out there for everybody to hopefully benefit from. And as you can see, John's done some incredible work that I hope we can learn from. So it's not just that you did some work. I can't thank you enough for sharing what you've learned and helping people like me just understand how to process things better, because I am willing. I'm willing to, let's say, commit to improve myself and improve my quality of life. And this is all part of it, because we're in 2022. It's a jungle out there. And again, for a cliffhanger, pardon me, but I must cliffhang.
Yeah, sure. We want you to come back next week.
We're talking about the ego, and there's so much to cover on the ego. I'm going to ask you a very important question, and don't answer it, because we're going to answer it. We're going to answer it on the
I have a
next one.
tendency to want to answer it
John?
anyway, yes.
Why? Thank you, folks. Thank you for tuning in to WJBE. Guys, thank you everybody for listening, and again for the positive feedback. I dare to say, I love you guys. I love everybody for reaching out. It was really, really special. Thank you, John, and look forward to the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I'd like to do is, the same way we opened this episode, I'd like to close it, but this time I'm not going to really say anything. We'll just go silent after a minute. I'll let you know we're signing off, but for the next minute or so, just I'd like everybody to, whoever's listening, take a few deep breaths and just keep breathing, focusing on, like I said before, any of those focal points that work for you, whether it's extremities or your breath itself, or picking something in a room and just focusing on it. And let any thoughts that come up and float away. Keep breathing. Okay.
Fantastic.
Well, thank you, everybody, and we will speak to you next time.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Have a great day.